The KKK, created during the Reconstruction era around 1865, was the direct cause of the loss of the Confederate Army during the Civil War. In Tennessee, 6 former Confederate soldiers band together in the hopes of creating a white-only state. They used violence and terrorism to rattle the newly reformed South to ensure that African American people would not become equal to white men for over a century. The Klan was organized in a way that separate uncorrelated clans from all around the South were formed in support of this new movement. Near the end of the Reconstruction era, the federal government created new laws and legislation to suppress the white supremacist movement. By 1871, they had lost so much support that they ceased to exist.
The KKK rapidly grew from a secret social fraternity to a paramilitary force bent on reversing the federal government's progressive Reconstruction-era activities in the South, especially policies that elevated the rights of the local African American population. The name of the coup
taxes. And 2, white Southerners could not accept African Americans exercising basic civil rights, holding office, or voting. And for many, the best way to return things to the way they were before Reconstruction was through violence. Especially after 1867, much of the violence directed toward African Americans in the South was politically motivated. The Ku Klux Klan was founded in 1866, and it quickly became a terrorist organization targeting Republicans, both black and white, beating and murdering men and women in order to intimidate them and keep them from voting. The worst act of violence was probably the massacre at Colfax, Louisiana, where hundreds of former slaves were murdered.
William Joseph Simmons founded the second wave of the KKK out of Atlanta, Georgia, with 15 members. This new Klan focused on pushing an anti-Semitic immigration stance and limiting the power of minority groups, thus ensuring white supremacy. The Klan gained rapid support after The Birth of a Nation was released later that year, romanticizing the Klan. Simmons helped the Ku Klux Klan gain rapid new memberships by opening up new clans all around the country, which required the members to pay a small entry fee, which they used to aid their reign of terror. The second wave had one major difference, though. All these new clans were under the direct control of the head Klan leader, William Joseph Simmons. The KKK, with their anti-immigration, anti-Jewish, anti-Catholic, and white supremacist stance, quickly became a very powerful group with over 4 million members in the U.S. By the 1930s, the public outlook on the Ku Klux Klan grew more negative. The Jewish, Catholic, and minority groups helped educate civilians on the dangerous ideals the KKK stood for. The police started to crack down on their acts of violence, which in turn pushed the public even further. By 1944, the public's view on the KKK, combined with the harsh stance law enforcement was taking on them, led to the collapse of the Klan yet again.
In the spring of 1925, D.C. Stevenson was charged with the murder of not an African American, a Jew, or a Catholic, or even an immigrant, but a white Protestant woman named Madge Oberholzer. While working for the state, she was kidnapped on a train and raped by Stevenson. Before she succumbed to a mixture of a staph infection, which she got from a bite from Stevenson, and mercury chloride that Stevenson had given her to commit suicide, Oberholzer was able to testify to the police against the leader of the KKK. Stevenson was eventually convicted, and the papers across Indiana and nationally turned on the Klan.
The Klan is a violent organization. It shelters a group of thugs who will do anything to scare Negroes away from white schools or from registering to vote. Last year, they scored 7 murders, 11 cases of arson, mainly of Negro churches, 27 bombings, and hundreds of cross burnings.
The third wave of the Ku Klux Klan came to power just 2 years after the collapse of the previous wave, though they did not gain significant traction until the mid-1950s. While America was pushing for civil rights during the 1950s through 80s, the KKK allied with neo-Nazis and the alt-right and started a push in the other direction. Though former waves of the Klan were notoriously anti-Catholic, the new wave denounced that stance as a part of their new marketing strategy and pushed for a Catholic-based agenda. In continuation with their past traditions, the KKK continued with their acts of terror, most notably the murder of a 14-year-old boy, Emmett Till, in the year 1955, the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing of 1963, which caused the death of 4 young girls, and the Charlottetown massacre, which killed 14 in 2014. But those were not the only acts of terrorism. They frequently held rallies and marches all around the country. Since the 1960s, the Grand Wizards have spoken about recreating a segregated country, and in some stances, arguing to create a white-only nation. In 2016, it was estimated that the Klan had around 120 chapters, with around 5 to 8 registered Klansmen.
Roy Bryant is the operator of this small store. It was here that the Chicago Negro boy, Emmett Till, is alleged to have paid unwelcome attention to Roy Bryant's most attractive wife.
And they died in Birmingham, at the 16th Street Baptist Church, rallying point of the Negro Drive in the nation's most segregated big city. Dynamite exploded on a Sunday morning, killed 4 little girls in Sunday school, injured 20 other Negroes.
The one issue we've never changed on is that of segregation. We believe that God has commanded us to separate ourselves from other races.
Stunning hate crime in America. A young boy full of optimism killed. So was his grandfather. So was another woman. And this is the man accused of a murderous rampage fueled by rage and bigotry.
Reverend Clementa Pinckney, who, along with 8 others, gathered in prayer and fellowship and was murdered last night. And to say our thoughts and prayers are with them and their families and their community doesn't say enough to convey the heartache and the sadness and the anger that we feel.
That America is better when it's a white country.
I would say wherever Europeans are on the earth, it's better. We bring a level of civilization, and we bring also something that's unique to us.
It's white.
You will not replace us! You will not replace us!
They did, in fact, text all the students saying, don't talk about this on social media, but come out. We're now back to putting our bodies on the line. That's what Heather Heyer did. She put her body on the line in front of a white supremacist and gave her life for the values that we all hold as Americans. And I have to say, it's humbling to see the Heyer family at that service and the sacrifice that they've laid on the altar of liberty. But it's also depressing to realize that in the 21st century, there are still Heather Heyers who have to do that.